We've shred the Roubaix weight. The watts per kilo are through the roof. The live show is live. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Hump Day Wednesday. The show is packed. The stages have been packed. I was about to introduce this guy, but he's already on screen. But before I do, guys, again, quickly, we have another set of laser Walter large sunglasses as worn by Footscray handicap winner Daniel van der Laan. It does not get better than that. I was going to introduce him and say something like there was a race to the top of this climb and he won the day, but you can already see him. Mr. Angus Calder, welcome.
Hey Chris, thanks for having me. Yeah, I guess van der Laan just couldn't quite make the selection of that last climb.
The leg warmers are slowing him down.
Exactly. Speaking of climbs, how awesome was La Course? I'm not sure if any of you or if all of you have seen it, but has to be one of the most exciting races I think I've ever seen. I mean,
it was a cracker.
Just awesome. I mean, going over the last stage, the race was just blown into pieces, and then the final catch being made right at the 11th hour kind of thing. It couldn't have been any more nail biting. So, yeah, pretty awesome to see that kind of racing coming up or actually being shown like that side of women's cycling, which is really cool.
Absolutely. Now, you are going to take a little bit of a lead on this competition this evening.
This is true. So we've got the highly sought after laser Walter Large sunglasses again, as worn by van der Laan. I mean, why wouldn't you want a pair of those? So I've got a trivia question for you later on. The only downside is you're going to have to sit through 20 or 30 minutes of us pretending
Sorry about that.
We're talking about. But if you can hang out for that long, we've got a pretty curly question for you. I'd be interested to see who can get their answer in first for that one.
Well, the good news is, we have quite a bit to talk about, and we almost actually have a structure for what we're going to talk about this evening. So we're going to start, guys. We were briefly sort of playing with this the other day. Luke, if you can scroll on to the title sequence there. Basically, we've been playing with this concept of what did you see? There's been a lot going on in this event, and I'm not necessarily talking about who's winning and who's losing, but we popped out a few things there. Then I kind of want to have a quick chat about how to win a stage. Like, the yellow jersey is where everyone's attention seems to go, and there's a lot of people whinging that race is boring. We might also be part of that whinge, but let's have a quick chat about actually winning stages. Bo is back. We found him. He is alive, and we've got a little treat for him. The fight for yellow, and finally, yeah, I'm going to have a rant. We're going to talk a little bit about kit and go from there. So we thought we'd kick it off this evening with, well, we've been hard at it. We have produced an actual intro for this, Luke. So if you can go ahead and play this trademarked introduction.
So first up, we've got one thing that I've noticed is I'm a big fan of Agé des Le Mondial, and one thing that they've put up on their story here is, which I don't need to point just there, is that Romain Bardet is running a few nifty little things. I mean, he's got an entirely optimized ceramic speed system, so he's got his special chain on, the UFO chain, I think, bottom bracket, pulley wheels, hub bearings, headset, the works. The difference is he's actually running that for the entire tour, I think is what I read. So normally they just run the chain for a special day, but he's doing it for the entire Tour de France, and he's also got special 3D printed, titanium 3D printed jockey wheels, which is pretty neat.
So you run the bloody wax chain thing, don't you?
Yeah, I do run a wax chain as of recently, but
anyway,
later.
All good.
What about you?
Okay.
Anything exciting?
Yeah, so I think, what was it, the first episode that no one could actually listen to? We made a comment, something along the lines of disc brakes. Man, they're taking off. This is the tipping point. It's all happening from here. Absolutely going nuts. Well, they've all disappeared. It seems as though as soon as everyone hit the mountains, well, sanity took over, and Dan van der Laan's rant might have got through to them all. So here's a great shot. You can see Rigo there on the pave with the disc brakes. Flick along to the next one. Here's Rigo descending. There's no rotors. Nope, they're rim brakes. So they have disappeared. If you can keep flicking along, there's another example. We saw early on Chavanel's cracking disc brake bike when he was in the breakaway. That's disappeared as well. So seems as though the tipping point might be coming, but it might not have come just yet. That's kind of what I saw. Now, Luke, did you spot anything sifting its way around the internet?
So I did, and we've got here the bike view of the guy jumping the course from the U-turn around. Gives thumbs up.
There's the lads.
Which is pretty sweet. And then I think here somewhere we might have the road view. I think here we go. You can see him jumping the course again. But as basically when this happened, I think I texted you. I think it was the most interesting thing that's happened in the tour so far.
Controversial.
So,
Yeah.
That's pretty controversial. Just going to throw that one out there, are you? Okay, fair enough. Which is actually a pretty good segue because there is a bit of chat at the moment going around that the race for yellow is a little bit dull. But never fear, because this... Look, here's the thing with the tour, right? Like, there is a lot of other things going on, like winning a stage, right? So
No mean feat.
it's not really a mean feat. Like, it gets overshadowed a lot of the time with the race for yellow. But like for like 95% of this peloton, it is a career-defining moment. And also for the teams, only a few of them are actually chasing a GC. So what are these other teams doing? So we thought we'd have a real quick chat just about actually like how teams are trying to win stages. So if you can pop some of the pictures up here, Luke. So this was from stage 11, I think, where you had the Fortunato Samsic guys. So this is a breakaway. This is not a lead out for a sprint. This is not a sky train on the front of the peloton. This is a breakaway. So they're basically kind of separating the race and saying, well, we're just going to go for stage wins and putting guys up the road in the breakaway. To do that, well, you're putting a mixture of guys in there. So if you can flick along to the next one, you're putting a guy. You saw this on stage 10, I think, where awesome ride from Alaphilippe, but he had basically like a flatland domestique in Phil Gilles, like sitting in there because, you know, you're going up and down these big hills, but there's long valleys between the hills. So this was a perfect chance for someone like him to do some domestique work for Alaphilippe. You'll see that kind of play out now as the race goes on, because a lot of teams and a lot of guys lose a lot of time, and this is the way it sort of plays out. But the question that like gets asked all along is, you know, we all saw Alaphilippe's ride, right? Awesome ride, smashed it up those climbs, and people said, well, why can't he win the yellow jersey? So, well, why can't he win it?
Because he can only really do that once, maybe 1.5 times.
Right.
He can't do it for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
the thing. He doesn't have the consistency.
Yeah. And I think you were going to mention that there's a lot on offer other than even the stages. Like some of them are chasing jerseys and things.
Yeah, so I mean, you'll have the mountains classification, obviously. You've got the Young Riders jersey, which is it's a GC classification of sorts. Yep. Peter Sagan's obviously trying to win the green jersey again. So you have guys making the breakaway each day with specific intents, not to win the stage,
yep.
But to get points for their respective classifications that they're chasing.
Flick on to the next one there,
That's
Luke.
why you'll see Alaphilippe in the break 2 days in a row. So obviously first day he was trying to win the stage, collected a lot of mountains points.
Yep.
Second day, not trying to win the stage. He used too many bickies the day before, but he's trying to solidify his place in the mountains classification, pick up a few more points.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Fair enough. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that as it plays out the next couple of weeks. But the point of kind of that was, well, you know, there's a lot to watch in this race other than just those like 3 or 4 guys chasing that yellow jersey. Now, we promised you a rendezvous with the man himself. He's under a tree somewhere in Northern Europe. We would love to hear from him. We don't have yet an intro music for him. I promise you that is coming. It'll be as good as the first one, I promise. So, the man himself, high standards. Can we get some action from you there, Bo?
From Holland, in the Netherlands, not too far out of Amsterdam. We're doing Bo's Bowl Does Europe part 2, maybe part 3, if I've made the cut. I just wanted to run you through what we're doing for a mid-morning breakfast here. We got this liquid yogurt that is very common throughout Scandinavia and Northern Europe, and it's like a liquid crack. It is so good. So when you're this side of the ditch, make sure you look for it. And yeah, I mean, just look at that. So delicious. So I got crunchy muesli in there, a bit of healthy muesli, because you know, you got to do the right thing by the body every now and then. Bit of banana, sultanas, on the money. And yeah, this is sort of our outlook for the day. Pancake flat. Good times. Anyway, until next time.
So we mentioned that the yellow jersey. Actually, do you want to just quickly mention Troy's comment there?
Yeah, Troy Collett's just commented saying Cav out. So yeah, Cav and Kittle both missed the time cut today. So obviously Mountain's not really their territory here, but they've been dropped very early on and couldn't stay close enough to the peloton, and they've missed the time cut. I'm not sure how much Kittle missed it by. I know Cav missed it by quite a way. He finished more than an hour behind Geraint did last night. So they're out. You will not be seeing them for the rest of the tour.
A lot of the the post-race podcasts and stuff were like wrapping up, and Cav still hadn't crossed the line, so it wasn't looking good for the man in the orange boots, unfortunately.
Yes.
Look, we mentioned that the yellow jersey race. How do I put this nicely? It could be getting boring, and we want to have a bit of a look at it. Could be. All right. So
yeah. I mean, that's fair to say. I mean, my answer to that, like, is it getting boring? My answer is kinda. It is getting boring in that it's very controlled. It's quite predictable these days. However, it's still exciting because you're still not 100% sure that Sky are actually going to pull it off. I mean, one thing that I noticed is...
So Sky making it boring?
Sky making it boring, yes. So, I mean, one thing that I noticed last year and all of the years and all Grand Tours previously is when they line the team up on the front, they don't line up every single rider from the whole team. They normally save a few, so they would save Wout Poels or someone, for example, for the third week, so he'll ride in the Gruppetto for a week and a half, 2 weeks, and then he'll come out all guns blazing at the end of the tour. Interestingly, they've put the whole squad on the front for these last two stages. So I'm wondering, I mean, you could say it's boring, which they might be making it a little bit boring, but it could be incredibly entertaining should all the wheels fall off and they run out of juice in the third week is possible.
See, here's my question, right? So, Luke, bring up the yellow jersey stuff. Next one along. So, obviously, Sky, super strong team. There's no denying that. But, you know, you look at these guys, you look at Movistar and you say, well, hang on a sec. Like, this pound for pound, climbing-wise... is as good a team. Like, I don't understand how this tactic just continues to work when you have teams that seemingly are as strong. You know what I'm trying to say?
I do, yeah. I mean, one question I've heard before as well is why wouldn't Movistar just try and out Sky? I mean, if you have a sprint lead-out, for example, you have teams drag racing each other coming into the finish line, why wouldn't you just do that on a climb? The reason is if you're leading out next to each other and you manage to start a metre ahead of the sprinter on the other team, that's a pretty reasonable advantage. Yeah. Whereas starting a metre ahead on a climb that takes you almost an hour to do is no real advantage. So Sky will essentially just let Movistar ride the front, and Sky will just sit behind Movistar and wait for them all to run out of petrol. One thing I think that these guys need to do is Sky don't respond very well to incredibly explosive riding. They're very good at riding hard tempo for a long time. And so they keep the speed high from start to finish. That's the reason they have guys like Luke Rowe on the front and that they actually ride the front so much, even when they're not defending the yellow jersey, is because that's how they win races, is they keep the speed super high, they just ride an incredibly fast tempo up the climbs, and then just like that, they win. Yeah. And then they've essentially don't lose time usually, and then they can make it up in the time trials. Whereas the other riders, your Quintanas, Valverde's, Bardet, Nibali, those kind of guys respond really well to explosive efforts. So they would prefer a slightly slower race, but with a lot more attacking, a lot more explosive efforts.
But if you know you're going to the tour, you know you're going to be Sky trained, right? So these are professional athletes at the top end of their game. How can you tell me like a guy like Bardet or these sort of guys won't have trained for the last 12 months to basically ride it all? Like if you go to any race and you were literally told, okay, if you just can follow the wheel of the guy in front of you, you're a good chance of winning this race, because there is no tactics here. It's not like you have to follow the brake. You don't have to like close any gaps. All you've got to do is be physically able. I realize that's a big statement, all you've got to, but we're not talking about sort of massive differences between these guys. So when your job is literally to follow the wheel in front of you and, you know, hit a number really at the end of the day, like, I don't get, and I know we all get a little bit sort of, oh, they should be attacking, oh, they should be making it more interesting. But I kind of think the way to beat these guys is like, be good enough to sit on them to the last K. Yeah. And then like,
yeah, so
do something.
You kind of have to, like two schools of thought here. So the first one is, in my opinion at least, is that all of the other GC riders aren't actually just as fit or as strong as Geraint and Froome are, because if they were just as fit and it was purely a tactical error that they were making and that's the reason that they can't win, then you wouldn't see them being ridden off the wheel by the SkyTrain. I mean, they're Sky domestiques. Yes, they're world-class, like would-be leaders on other teams' domestiques, but you shouldn't be just ridden off the wheel. Yeah. If you're the leader on a team, essentially what would be happening is you would be attacking, you just can't get away from everybody at the end of the stage. But that's not what's happening. They don't even attack, they just get ridden off the wheel and they have their doors blown off. Yeah. Essentially, if you're going to try and do that, what you need to have is someone like Dumoulin or Froome. You essentially need to out-Froome, which I think Dumoulin could do. He's just not strong enough at the moment to do it. So he would have to not lose any time in the mountains to Froome. He would just have to follow him, sit on the back of the SkyTrain, and then blast everybody in the time trials and make his time up there.
That's a good point.
And beat them at their own game.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you need to be stronger, be fitter, and attack around and make up time that way. And this is the reason that Froome wins all the time. It's the reason that Roger Federer wins almost every single Wimbledon he turns up to, is because they're just the best. They are the strongest riders. Froome's got his tactics dialed. He knows how to react to pretty much any situation, anything you could throw at him. They're just incredibly hard to beat.
No, I get that. And guys, I'd be interested in your opinion on this, because like it's a roundabout way of saying that like a dominant rider is boring, because obviously we started this conversation by saying it's boring racing for yellow, and we finished this conversation by just basically saying that Froome's better than everyone, so deal with it.
Yeah, I mean,
there's a bit of a historic kind of thing in this, and I'm sure someone in the comments will pick this up. Like, you know, you looked at Indurain, that was pretty boring. He just like time trialled to death.
Yeah.
Lance just pretty much SkyTrained and then time trialled everyone. There was this little period after Lance and, like, you know, sort of Contador's like, well, he was on meat, wasn't drinking meat, and Cadell, and that was some pretty interesting stuff. Like Carlos Sastre, you know, probably on any given day, different guys could have won that, but now we're starting to see this dominant rider again take over, and we're all whinging and complaining that it's boring.
This is true. I mean, you could say that Contador himself was a dominant rider, but Contador was dominant in a very entertaining fashion.
Fair enough.
Whereas Sky dominant in a slightly less entertaining fashion, hence everyone accusing them of being boring.
Now, Luke, bring up the picture of Sky, because we're going to finish our yellow jersey chat by talking about Sky, because we haven't spoken enough about Sky. Right, what's going on? You have arguably the two best riders in the race on the same team. How's this play out?
So we've seen this before, actually. If you go to the next picture for me, Luke. So we've had this before.
There's the boys.
So, you have two riders on the team. They're both potential of winning. They both have a potential of winning the race overall. One of them, it's essentially just a race to see who can get into the yellow jersey first, because you're banking on your teammate having enough respect not to attack the yellow jersey. It's exactly what happened here with Contador and Armstrong when they both rode for Astana. Contador managed to get into the yellow jersey first. Then Lance just had enough respect that he wasn't going to attack Contador. He was essentially just going to wait for Contador to falter, and as soon as that happened, he was going to leap at the opportunity right around him and hopefully win, which didn't eventuate. Contador never faltered and he won. So there's Contador in first. Lance is actually standing on the third step of the podium.
Did you see?
So I'm wondering if this will happen.
Yeah.
Did
you see any of this dynamic play out on stage 11? I mean, Geraint attacked, went away.
Yes. So I mean, he didn't pull a turn.
Yeah.
I think was it Brandon might have said it earlier. He didn't pull a turn. As soon as they ran out of teammates, it was essentially like a co-leader situation. Thomas just attacked, went up the road. He was not looking to tow Froome up to the top of the climb. Geraint would still be in yellow if he did that. If they finished together, Geraint would still be in the yellow jersey, but he didn't do that. He attacked. Maybe he's here to try and win the race for himself. He wants to extend his lead. He's trying to prove how dominant he is. There are a lot of things at play here.
The moment's going to come, right?
There will be a point.
We had this chat, right? The moment will come where probably Froome goes away from Thomas, and Thomas is in that group. You know, he's probably got Nibali, he's probably got Bardet in there, and I reckon they will call his bluff. Yes. It will be one of these situations where Froome's going up the road, and these guys are saying, well, are you going to be a teammate? Be professional, or do you really want this yellow jersey? And I thought there was a really cool little chat between Mike Tomalaris and Cameron Worth the other night. And Cameron he trains with G, and he was saying, look, Thomas was training in January and February to win the Tour de France. He was not training to be a super domestique in July. He was training to win it. So that will be in the back of his mind. And I am, we kind of call that Movistar might be the dominant soap opera here. I reckon this could be the dominant soap opera.
It's great to say that Cameron trains with Geraint and Geraint's saying, I'm training to win the Tour de France. That's awesome, but we don't actually know how Geraint goes over 3 weeks. He's an unknown quantity. Froome is not. Froome's won back-to-back Grand Tours. He's done back-to-back Grand Tours for a very long time. He's historically done the Tour and the Vuelta in the same year. So Froome is very much a known quantity in this regard, whereas Geraint not so much. So you wouldn't put all your eggs into his basket because you're not actually sure if he'll deliver over 3 weeks. Whereas Froome, you really do.
Now, before we crack on to my rant about kits, and you're going to announce the competition question, I just thought we'd pick out a couple of quick questions here. Specifically from, I saw where are Mitchelton Scott standing from Paulie G.
Great question. I mean,
send Neve into the break trying to win a stage. I think that kind of shows it from me what their theory is now.
Yeah. So I mean, is it Adam Yates is here? He must have said, I don't feel too well, because sending one of your best climbing domestiques into the breakaway on a climbing heavy stage is just so silly. I mean, we had this discussion before, and I was saying that, yes, I think someone was alluding to it before. Troy Collett was saying again that with Sky's budget, they can send riders to any location with training camps, etc. That Sky just purchased their way to these wins. But no, I think Sky's tactics are actually just better than everyone else's. I mean, if you're actually trying to win and your rider's pretty good, why on earth would you send one of your best climbing domestiques in the breakaways? I just find that so stupid. Whereas Sky never do that. You never see a Sky rider in the breakaway. They always have a plan. They're always riding a very clever race.
Robbie, do you know, just saw Will Silver's comments, their thoughts on Renshaw's comment. Do you know what that specific quote is? If you could bring that up for the end of the show, we'll have a bit of a chat about that as well, because I have a theory I know what it's about. As far as the time cut thing goes, I got no issues with it.
No.
I'd love to see it dragged even further and make it more selective, because it might just take a little bit of the heat out of that sprinting stages in the very beginning if these guys have got to actually get over these mountains.
Sim CycleStars, is there more focus on the Giro now for the teams?
I would say no. The Tour is still the biggest marketing event of the year, so teams are always going to put the most resources into this. It's the reason you see them bring out special bikes, special kit for this kind of thing. It's purely for marketing. And winning the Tour de France or getting a result in the Tour de France gets you a lot more exposure than winning the Giro or winning stages of the Giro. I mean, even if you look at the points allocated for stage wins and the overall victories of the Giro versus the Tour, they're not the same. So the Tour gets 120 UCI points for winning a stage. The Giro gets 90.
I didn't know
which is really interesting. So they even weighted more in favour of the Tour.
1,000,
I think. Very interestingly, actually, Chris Harper, when he won the Oceania road championships down in Railton in Tasmania earlier this year. Won himself 250 points. So you could win 2 stages of the tour and not break even or not even level yourself with the Oceania Continental Champion. So good on you, Chris Harper.
Okay, so we will not use the word sky from now on in. We have mentioned it far too often. That's it. We're done. We can, I think, safely say that. No, probably won't be able to do that because we'll talk about it later. But we have promised you sunglasses. We will deliver, well, for one of you on that. And the question, which you have framed.
Yeah, so my question for everybody is, what climb did Chris Froome run up during the Tour de France is the first part. And then the second part is who won the stage the day that he ran up said climb. The first person, and you have to use the hashtag #UseYourHead for your answer to be valid.
Answer in the chat.
Yes.
Hashtag
in the chat,
#UseYourHead.
So you need to have both parts of the question right. So what climb did he run up and who won the stage? If you can get both of those, first person to pop them in the comments with the hashtag #UseYourHead, we'll pick up a pair of the much sought after
DVD sunglasses. There they are, beautiful, being sported by the man himself. While you all madly Google that answer, Brandon, you can't win this. I might point out, you can't have enough.
Cycling Addict's got it almost immediately.
Nails it.
Very well done. He must.
No hashtag.
Oh, someone's gonna have to comment there with the hashtag. No hashtag. And pick it up.
The hashtag is #UseYourHead. The answer is seen, but the hashtag is #UseYourHead.
High tension here.
Shouldn't it all be one word? Well, dear me, this is sort of kicked off a bit.
How about
it? Probably should be one word, shouldn't it, Mitch?
Yeah.
I think it probably should be.
We'll
give it to Cycling Addict in the end. He got there.
There's still a space.
No, we'll allow it.
We'll give it to him. We'll give it to him.
He's a cycling addict, but he's not a hashtag addict, unfortunately. So again, details at the end. But if Mr. Addict, you could email us at info@neroracing.com with your address. We'll get them out to you, and we get them out to you quickly, don't we, Brandon, who has actually already got the set that he won the other night.
There's a silly question here that I thought
I want to talk about kit. Let me talk about kit. I want to rant about kit.
Has picked the second place as well, which is very impressive.
That's true. All right, bring up the kits. That's the last one. Get to there we go. Okay, fantastic.
Beautiful.
All right, so we're talking about kits for the next 3 hours. Let me just start, guys. You know my general rant here about side panels, and I just wanted to set a little precedent for it because there's a good little shot here of how it's done well and how it's done badly. So FDJ, you can see side panels. Poor old Darryl Impey, who's got a cracking jersey. It's all split in half by his side panel. EF Draper, I love the fact that, they've got a bit of text on the side panel, but it's not cutting their kit in half. In fact, it just flows really nicely. And that picture there really identifies what I'm trying to talk about in that design. So if we move on then, guys, we'll get a nice little picture of, we're in the way. But
no, I've lost my head.
I like this. I do like the Trek kit, but this particularly interests me. I have a theory that this is probably a 2-in-1 or I don't think it's a skin suit. But the thing I did notice, there's no seam. So there's no seam.
Not touchy scratch.
There we go. Sorry, John. There's no seam. There's no seam on this kit, which is quite interesting. It's therefore like a one-piece suit, which again is something not necessarily that new, but I have a theory that textured sort of thing is something that we're going to see a little bit more of as we step along. Go along to the next picture there, Luke, and you will see we are in now. As far as like aesthetic goes, I think everyone will probably agree these guys have pretty much nailed it. You know, the fact that you've got the gradient jersey bib flowing through the same gradient in their bike.
I kind of think you're biased about that.
Yeah, I am a little bit biased. I'm a bit biased about that particular
colour scheme.
Pretty similar. But, you know, it's good. So why not keep using it? Step along to the next one. And yes, so we discussed the other day about some different international jerseys, some champions jerseys. Gus pointed this out to me, so I absolutely hate this Euro jersey. I think it is abysmal. It's basically white kit with a few white stripes on it. Horrific. However, Euro kit done well, I don't have a picture of it, is...
Mariana Vos, the current women's continental champion for Europe, actually looks awesome.
Yeah.
Black. It's pretty much the exact same kit, just with black nicks. It's a cracker.
Yeah.
Big fan.
Manly Warringah won't like this particular kit because it has a zipper on the front. He's already obsessed by that. Now, moving along to the next one. Okay. Great to see Tarahumara Cycling Club represented at the Tour de France this year. So, red, white and blue, great colours to work with, and they just went and said, okay, you know how in like MS Paint you have the option of a line, a rectangle, you can use an arrow. They didn't do circle, but they pretty much just used every tool in MS Paint and went onto the kit. Like okay, you know my rant on side panels on the jersey. Well, when you go and put some little bizarre like grey stripe on the bib short that isn't actually a side panel, it's like an extra little patch. I don't know what's going on here. It's awful. It's possibly the worst kit in the peloton. Now, moving along to the next one. Now just come down a little bit on this one. You guys know that I do really, really like this particular kit. I think it's a good one. Still don't 100% know who makes it, but
Someone commented in an earlier vlog. It's BioRace.
It's BioRace. That's right.
Makes the pot kit.
That those sleeves.
Bit of curling happening.
A little bit of curling happening there, right?
I'm talking about the chest hair curl.
I'm not talking about chest hair. No, I'm talking about the sleeves. Now, guys, this happens. It happens at the very top level, and this is a really nice quality material. I know that's a good quality material because if you can flick through to the next picture, Luke, it is the exact same material that we run on our skin suits and on that crit jersey that we ran last year. We decided not to use it on the sleeves because it is quite a dense material. It's super fast, but it is not a... it's going to fold. That's the whole point with it. And I think that was Taylor Finney running that on that day, and you can see like he was melting. And I can tell you, we can both tell you, running that material on a hot day,
yeah, it's pretty toasty.
No, you're sweating up a storm. Moving on to the next one, and we're getting on to the good ones now. I will stop ranting, and I will start doing this. Big fan. I don't know what came first, the bullet helmet sort of kind of gradient or the jersey, but whichever did, it's absolutely awesome. Love that two-tone thing. Closer look at it in some of the pictures, you can see it's actually quite a thick design to get that sort of two elements to it, but clearly, like the way Dylan wears it, is pretty awesome. Though noting with Lotto Jumbo, guys, if you can flick on to the next picture, totally different jersey in the mountains. Totally different. Doesn't look as cool because there's not that full aero spec. Much lighter and therefore far more usable in the mountains. But you can kind of see that these guys have thought about what they're doing. I really like this kit, but it is not my favourite. My favourite, just hang off, my favourite is almost never seen because basically some dude keeps winning the world championships and he's their best rider and we therefore never see their actual plain, boring, normal kit. But if we can go to the next picture, I think it's the right order. I nailed it.
I think what I heard was that Sagan hasn't worn his standard team jersey in a road race since 2011.
Yeah, it's a crazy stat, isn't it? It's a crazy stat. Yeah, love the Bora Hansgrohe kit.
Nuts.
I think the...
Can I just ask, why do you keep choosing pictures of people with hairy chests and weird...
Because I don't have a hairy chest.
It's what he aspires to be.
I'm aspiring to one day have a hairy chest. Yeah, guys, you can see I love the actual pattern to this, but it's the little details, and with the sleeves, you can kind of just see it in this photo that it's kind of got that, well, you used a good phrase for it, mesh for it, but the mesh colour underneath is actually the aqua colour, which is such an awesome touch. And it's not just like well, it's not Celeste, but let's call it turquoise. It's like there's actually a few different kind of cuts to
Winter
it.
mint.
Winter mint. Beautiful. Lovely. Next picture, you can kind of see it slightly better there, that kind of on the sleeve. Really like that. I'm going to keep looking for what that material is and maybe try it.
Brilliant.
There we go.
Sounds good to me.
So that is... Okay. I just can take a breath. We're good. We're good. I've done kits. I'm happy. Well, I will definitely, obviously, come back to do more about it as we go along. But as far as getting some of that off my chest, I'm happy about it. So, guys, I think we're going
a couple of quick questions.
do some questions here, lads.
Katusha makes their own kit. I really like the Katusha kit. I don't think you do, but I'm a huge fan of it.
They don't manufacture it. They make it. Yes.
Are you sure they don't manufacture
Correct.
it?
Yes.
They're
100%.
a clothing brand?
Yes,
No?
but they don't make it.
Okay, that's fine. Do you know who does?
Yeah.
Is like ASOS or
Maybe.
someone? No.
Secret.
Remains a mystery. A lot of white socks this year.
Oh, good one.
Do you
yes.
like white socks?
Yeah, I love white socks.
I don't
Except
like
when
white
you're on.
I love white socks.
Look, white socks are fantastic when you've got 3 weeks in the middle of July that are going to be sunny and you don't need to wear them for the rest of the year. Yeah, awesome. Go
This is
for it.
true.
Are you going to see these dudes wearing white socks in Paris-Roubaix in April? No.
No, all the classics. Not so many
No.
white socks there. No, get a bit too dirty. All right.
Sapphire kit. Yeah,
that's the
class.
Sapphire kit.
Absolutely class.
Cannot be purchased, which really is a bit annoying. We've had
annoying.
Had a few customers at Atelier and Cyclery trying to track down some S-Fire kit. Can't be sourced at the moment. So hopefully they release that at some point. Hopefully Shimano bring it out to the public. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Branded. Any other? Rigo is out. That news has sort of started to filter through. The way I kind of look at it is, looks like the Vuelta is going to have a cracking field.
Yeah.
Should be some good competition for Richie there. Should we briefly just chat about Richie and the controversy there about broken shoulder, no broken shoulder? Oh, he's broken his shoulder, and this sort of thing, or?
I'm not so sure. I mean, essentially what Chris is trying to get to is there was a tweet put out by the BMC manager, Jim Oshowitz, saying that Richie's collarbone is not broken, there's no issue, he's fine. It came across as quite a sour sort of, Richie's a bit soft, he's just pulled out because it's the easy thing to do kind of sentiment, which I think was in poor taste. And then pretty much everybody else from the medical side actually reported that he did have a broken clavicle, he broke his collarbone.
So you know Dan Vanderland's theory on this, right?
Let's hear it.
100% conspiracy that it is not broken, and the only reason they're backtracking on it is because of the worst word currently being used is optics of it is terrible for BMC, so they're now saying, oh yeah, it is broken, oh it is really bad. So
Interesting.
yeah. And the other bit about, while we are talking about Vanderland, unfortunately, his new claim is, he actually did call that Cav would not finish the mountains, seriously, and he's saying that they're going to 1-2.
Can he
word.
pick someone to actually get a result?
Yeah, I know. Well, that's
rather
his.
just being so negative.
So that is his pick, is that SKY will 1-2 the race.
Gotcha. Okay. In what order? Order.
Froome. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
We shall see.
We shall see. Okay, we are done. Don't forget.
There's a question. How's your form for Saturday?
I'm not riding Saturday. Sunday I am.
Sunday?
Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, Sydney Uni, unfortunately, lots of people away. Everyone goes away. Same.
Can we see this image?
What's the image?
Luke's got a special.
Oh yes, you got a special going away image for us. Jeez, this is a great.
No, this is after the ending credits.
Which there's no one watching now because basically we've just been sitting here sort of rabbiting for the last half an hour. Anyway, all good.
Awesome.
We will see you guys over the weekend. Who's your pick for Alpe d'Huez this evening, Angus?
Roman Bardet. You?
Nero Quintana.
Cool. Let's see how it goes.
Dan? No, he's not here.
Primoz.
Oh, Primoz.
Primoz.
See you guys.
Awesome.